So we've got some absolutely monstrous gibiceps here. They are phenomenally big. Haven't seen one of these corner aquariums for a while. It's very cool. Now there's a little bit of discoloration in the water. So to get rid of this discoloration in the water, because it's got a little bit of a yellow tint to it, we've got a few options for that. We can either just do more water changes, because if you're not changing the water regularly enough, you get what's called a Gilvan tint in the water, which was just a result of a lot of biological activity. Otherwise, we could add some activated carbon to the water. That would also help with the clarity of the water. Now, as far as fish are concerned too, this tank has been set up for quite a long time, and obviously these fish have been in here for a very long time. But one thing just to be very aware of is change is king. Because what can happen with an aquarium is if you have the same setup for too long, you find after a period of time you've sort of seen it. So changing stuff around, whether that means changing decorations, changing fish, whatever you need to do just to sort of like change it up a bit, you find that that keeps you very much more engaged in what's going on with the tank. So I'm a big fan of change. I'm not a big fan of having the same setup for too long. Once again, it depends on you. If you are a person that just loves something as a pet, then that's cool. But if you find that you're just not watching it anymore, it's good to be a little bit brutal and just swap it out. Change some fish, change some decorations, and just do whatever you need to do to keep your interest up, because that's also in the best interest of the fish. Because the more you are engaged in your fish, the more you're actually going to look after them. And with fish like these, I mean, these are very impressive big gibiceps, is that you could look at trading them in if you find that you're not watching them anymore. But to someone that has never seen them, these are very impressive animals. But once again, regardless of how impressive your fish are, if you've seen the same fish for too long, then you have sort of seen them. Also, we want to just be aware that fish keeping is 50% water quality and 50% food quality. We've got to make sure the fish aren't a bit thin. Some of these fish, like those yellows, they're a little bit on the skinny side. So we do want to fatten them up a little bit. Fish were actually handed down. So these are inherited fish. So they're very special, these fish. They won't be going anywhere. Now, these fish will commonly do these big poos that look like streamers. Now, if you're finding that, there's a few things you can consider doing. First of all, if you do get some digging geophagus type fish, they tend to break it up and eat it. So any geophagus would be a very good idea to add to this tank. Also, if you get a bit of Spectrum's probiotics into the diet, that tends to help too, because Spectrum's probiotics, not only is it a cold extruded food, so you're actually getting the nutrients, but it's got a probiotic bacteria in the food, which means when the fish poo, the bacteria in the poo physically eats the poo. So that's something I would consider doing. So fish to break up the poo, and food to allow it to break down faster would be a good idea. Another good idea too is there's a product called Pristine from Seachem, and that helps to physically break down stuff as well. So that's another thing that we could look at. Now, as far as food's concerned, we got heaps of options here. So looking through these foods, Danichi is pretty much top shelf. There is no better food in the world than this. This is a holistic, slow-cooked food. Quality-wise, there is no food that will give you a better result, in my opinion. So this is a very good food. And it's very important to be aware that oxygen and wet fingers is the enemy of fish food. So making sure they're nice and shut like they are is very important. Now we've got some flake food. The Spectrum flake, I would say, is the best of the flake, but flake is not my favorite style of food, but that is a good food. We've got some New Life Spectrum here, which is another very good food. And then we've got plenty of different Hikaris to choose from, which in general is quite a good food. So as far as feeding is concerned, these fish they've got plenty of variety, they've got plenty to do. And we just need to be feeding them a little bit more, because if we watch the belly, this guy is very good, but some of the other yellows are a little bit on the thin side. And the Plecostomus is very good, but he's probably just a tiny bit on the thin side, but not really. So the Plecostomus or Gibiceps are looking very, very good. So how much to feed is a question. The fish's belly will tell us that, and what to feed. So we've definitely covered what to feed with this nice big range of aquarium. There's various things that we can test for, but there's also a whole lot of stuff we can't test for. And in general, we call them accumulants. Now, what I mean by accumulants is that over time, in an aquarium, things are going to accumulate in the water. And one of the things that will accumulate in the water is things like pheromones and phenols and various hormones. And these pheromones and phenols and hormones and things can actually stunt the fish's growth. But nobody told these two that, because these guys here are absolutely massive for this size tank. So fish are definitely not one size fits all, because one person can have one experience and someone else can have a completely different experience. So that's one reason why it's really important to do regular water changes. So in a tank like this, I'd change about a third of the water, a quarter of the water. And if you did that on a semi-regular basis, preferably about once a month, and make sure you use a gravel cleaner when you're doing that, then that will usually be sufficient for reducing accumulants. There's also products such as Polyfilter, and Polyfilter is wonderful for removing accumulants. So if you don't ever do water changes, then eventually there will be a cost on your fish, and you can actually lose your fish due to things accumulating in your water. So semi-regular water changes is something I highly encourage. In my job, what I basically do is go from one person's house to another person's house and do consultations and services on aquariums. Now, this is something that I get over and over and over again. So fish keeping is 50% water quality and it's 50% food quality. Now, I just tested this water and it's very bad. Like, the fish should actually be dead. So in this case, we have ammonium nitrate and nitrate is nice and low, but pH is acid and the KH is 0. Now, in most cases, when the water's like that, all the fish are dead. But once again, fish keeping is 50% water quality, which in this case, let's say that's a real fail, but then 50% food quality. And it's so often that I go to someone's house and the fish are fine. Like realistically, those Plecostomus, considering they're in acid water with 0 KH, they are looking good. And the thing that I always find is this food. So this is Danichi. It's a slow cooked holistic food. And I find the quality of this food to be absolutely unsurpassed. And it is common that I'm shocked, because I'll go to one person's house, I test the water, it's terrible, the fish look fine, and they've got good quality food. Then I can go to the very next house, all the fish are dying, but the water is much better than this water, but then they don't have good quality food. So most food is pressure cooked and processed, and you're really not getting the nutrients. Whereas this one is my favorite, and also this one. So this is the cold extruded food, which has got a probiotic bacteria in the food. And then you've got your Danichi. So this is a typical example of what I regularly see, which is if you have good quality food, which in this case we have, half your battle is won. If you're getting these big catfish poos in the bottom of your aquarium, they can be big stringy things. And it's really worth using this product here. This is Pristine. And this is really great for the solid sludge and detritus. So it's really good for breaking down the poo from these sorts of fish. So it does help. So anytime you're getting dirty gravel or dirty filters, it's really worth using this product. I find it's really good.